Yeah, can I get a 3 Ys with onions and give me some extra ketchup?
You want onions on it?
Yeah, extra onions.
Okay, so I want onions.
Yeah, the 3 Ys.
Yes, all right.
Welcome to another episode of 3 Wise Radio, the podcast where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, technology, the internet, and pretty much everything else media related. This is a special 0.5 edition of 3 Wise Radio, so we'll be going more into video games than anything else. Actually, just exclusively video games, because we're reviewing E3 this week, and because I'm not a huge gamer, I dabble, and dabble is a loose term. They've decided to replace me with Good, Bad, or Bad Bad's host, Bryan Schilligo. So sit back and enjoy this 0.5 edition of 3 Wise Radio.
Welcome to 3 Wise Radio, where we cover, well, specifically for this cast, just video games. We're doing a 0.5 issue where we're going to be covering E3, and we've invited my good friend, host of Good, Bad, 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 Bryan Schilligo, on the cast because he is a big fan. Sorry, I'm also here with Garret.
Hey,
Garret, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Right on. I don't do this much.
It's fine.
Brian, how are you? How are things?
I'm doing fantastic. And the actual name of the show is Good, Bad, or Bad, Bad, but it's close enough.
Good,
I'll
Bad,
take it.
or Bad, Bad. You can do your plugs
Close
later.
enough.
Let's make this about E3 and coverage.
About E3. Sounds good.
Alrighty. So, I mean, this happens every year in the summer. Basically, the first thing I wanted to cover, I mean, this has been a big deal for me for a long time. I check it every year, less and less as I've gotten older. But what are your guys' kind of overall thoughts on E3 and how it's kind of changed when you were a kid to how you've gotten older?
Honestly, I feel like I care less about it, especially it's a combination of, I think, the information is so much more accessible now with the internet kind of growing as it did.
Sure.
But B, you don't really have those TV shows like Attack of the Show and stuff like covering it. Like that was always my end for E3 was Attack of the Show, any stuff that was on G4 or whatever. Like
X-Play.
X-Play with Adam
Sessler and
Morgan Webb.
Yep.
The love of my life, Morgan Webb.
Adam Sessler. Yeah,
I feel
agree.
similarly to Garret, is that it's not as big of a deal anymore because, like he said, with the internet now being as prevalent, you can find out almost anything you want to know anytime throughout the year. But they do, which I was thinking that's probably true overall, but they do a fairly good job, most of the companies, of at least holding several big bombshells to kind of drop in their presentations that nobody knew was coming and nobody saw coming. And those moments are still really cool. And so I still really enjoy watching it for that. And we'll talk about what some of those were this year eventually. But it's for me, it's not, the watching X-Play for, 12 hours a day, or when they did their big day-long marathons or an Attack of the Show where they were at E3, was like a highlight of my high school life. And seeing all the games I would beg my parents to buy and save up money for all year. And so it's a little different now because you can just go buy whatever you want. But yeah, it's still, I enjoy it. I watched all of the coverage this year that I had time to. So I think it's still pretty cool.
Yeah. I think I mean, actually, that was something that I was going to argue against with the dawn of the internet, is that they do such a good job of keeping things hidden. And it's actually surprising. I wonder if that's because I look more into movies than games nowadays, or if that's just the developers, isn't press asking them these questions constantly. Because I remember last year or 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago even now, the big one that I remember was just a snowy terrain, and then you saw the AT-AT Walker foot land, and it was like, oh, Battlefront's happening. It's like, I have no idea that was going on. So that's the only thing I would say they're doing a good job combating the internet with.
I agree, yeah. In general, I just meant like everything apart from those several big, bombshells that each company has. The rest of the stuff you can go and find and look up anytime you want, and having it, especially. And I guess this is another thing, is that back in kind of not pre-internet, I mean, the internet was around, but before the prevalence of the internet and all the coverage, not so much that you could find it beforehand, but unless you watched the show at the time, you couldn't, or had it recorded, you couldn't go back and watch that stuff, later like you can now, where you just go to YouTube and watch everything the next day or whatever. Yeah. So you kind of had to watch X-Play or whatever at that time, which was a cool experience.
Yeah. I mean, it also makes sense for the culture, like that shift does happen, that the TV show coverage just isn't really a thing anymore. Yeah. And honestly, probably the majority of the people from from G4 TV are probably still there in some capacity for some online thing that we don't
they
really
all
watch
are.
anymore.
If you watch different streams and web streams, they all show up here and there in different places. So
yeah, the
absolutely.
only thing that's kind of jaded me too with them that's changed lately is I don't trust them anymore. If that makes sense, because I mean the biggest thing is always, oh, this is shot on a PS4 or this is shot like in game on an Xbox One. Yeah. And it never is, and I don't understand, because that seems to be a thing that's been new since I would even say these PS3, like
probably PS3,
the last generation. That's just, it started with, I guess, Killzone. Like, why is that a thing? Why do they keep trying to do that when no one believes them and everybody kind of knows? It's kind of this like this lie that everybody's okay with believing because it still looks really cool, and I guess it's like the idea of having a game that looks that pretty is the selling point.
My guess is that. Oh, did you go, Garrett?
There you go. That was.
My guess is that they're not technically lying because I don't think they could get away with that. I think what it is it is running on equivalent software on a PC to the console, but they're showing you such it's a lot of time it's pre-rendered or it's it's in engine, but it's pre-rendered, or it's such a small part of it that there's a lot of elements that they can turn on that if in the full game they couldn't really have there, and it gets pulled out at later stages of development and doesn't end up being in the game. But for their little 5-minute video, they're able to add more into it. And it is technically they're not lying when they say this is running on a whatever. You know what I mean? I guess that's kind of what it is. But it is weird that they still do that. And I think we're going to see it trend away from that a little more because we're getting more and more outrage from people. What was the last big one that everybody lost their minds about how it looked? No Man's Sky was pretty big, how it looked, not in all the gameplay parts of that aside. When you compare what it looked like at E3 versus what the launch looked like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
It wasn't even remotely close.
Watch Dogs was a good one. Even Battlefront was a pretty big one. But I still don't understand the concept because that doesn't make me want to buy the games anymore now because I just don't believe it. And then whenever I plug the game in, I'm always disappointed. Like, why don't you actually, like, I would have so much respect for a studio if they actually showed up and were like, hey, you know how we're always like lying about what actually you're going to see when you get it? Like, this is us right now with what it actually is. And maybe these games are so early on that what you were saying is like, it's kind of a pre-rendered like situational thing that they don't really have time to kind of do that yet. But I would have so much respect for them. Like, this is what it actually looks like as PS4. It's not going to look as good as a lot of this stuff, but this is what the game will look like, guaranteed, if not better.
I think the best analogy, what it is when you're seeing that, you're seeing the McDonald's commercial for a Whopper video picture. You're not seeing the Whopper they make for you. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably the closest comparison.
So it's a plastic. Plastic sandwich in a TV studio.
Well, it can't be plastic anymore. It all has to be real now. There's new food regulations.
Are there really?
Yeah. Everything on it has to be edible because I shot a commercial with food in it not too long ago. Everything in it has to be edible.
Who regulates that? Nobody's walking around doing spot
FCC
checks
or something like that. Yeah.
No, I get that they have to do it, but I'm saying which guy's job is like, going to Arby's today. Gotta make sure that everything's up to code in terms of photo ops. Oh, that's ridiculous. All right, well, I mean, we all still watch it every year, so apparently we're all still into it enough to keep going. Biggest news that we'll kind of just start breaking things down. I think the biggest, maybe not ended up being the biggest news, but one of the biggest announcements, Xbox Scorpio, was supposed to come out or at least be revealed. It's coming out this, I believe, November, like November 11th or something along those lines. Triumph or flop? What do we think about it?
Because when you were telling me about it, because I had heard nothing about it up until like a couple days ago, and you were reiterating to me that like, they were saying that this is going to revolutionize consoles, and it's like it's just another console. There
was an interview at one point where they said that this was going to change the game in terms of consoles. The like revolution of consoles, that like you're going to get a new console every 3 years, that this was going to change that.
I'm going to have to disagree with Garrett a little bit on this because I don't think it was a flop, and I'm going to make a bad pun. It wasn't a flop. It was 6 teraflops. Boom. That's the graphical computing power of the new video card.
All right, good job. Let's wrap it up. I think we're done for today.
But no, I think it's when I was looking at it and I was skeptical, and it's with Scorpio, it's code name or something because it's the Xbox One X now is its official.
Yes, Xbox One X.
Or the Scorpio might be the name of the graphics card. I don't know.
No, that was just the code name. So yeah, Scorpio's gone.
Right. So when I looked at the specs and looked over, I think it is a pretty significant upgrade. And I don't know if game changer is the right word, but it's going to be the first console, most likely, if all goes as advertised, that's going to let you game with the fidelity and on the level of a PC. You're going to get 4K gaming. You're going to get it at 60 frames a second, and not a single console out right now, not the PS4, not the Xbox One, not the One S or the PS4 Pro, offers as much graphic power as the One X does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally going to give you basically the option to sit and have at least close to PC level quality graphics from a console when you're sitting on your couch, which is something that I've always wanted. Because I have a pretty nice PC, but I've always been a console gamer. I do both, but I really enjoy playing games on consoles for whatever reason. I think it's just a nostalgia thing from growing up with consoles, and the idea of being able to play and get that full experience, graphical experience, while playing on a console is something I'm looking forward to. Now I probably won't get one right away, but I think it was actually a triumph. I think it's not like this huge, amazing, like a game-changing, holy cow triumph, but I think it is an important step in the console evolution, because until this point, everybody always is like, well, graphics on consoles are always still going to look like shit compared to when you're playing on your PC, and I don't think that's going to be the case anymore, and it's going to force PlayStation to step up their game the same way, because people aren't going to accept less than 4K 60 frames a second once that comes out and starts hitting the market. I hope. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, you got some good points there. I know they did say that not Bungie 2, Destiny 2 is going to run 30 frames per second.
And some games will, I'm sure.
I think the one thing that they suffered with is the same thing that Xbox has been suffering with this entire time, and that's that in terms of like I'm totally blanking on the word, but in terms of like exclusive games and like first party development, they didn't bring anything to the table to show like what this system is going to be capable of. Everything was essentially, this game is going to be the upgraded version for the game that's out on Xbox One now. So I think that also does it a disservice, because you're not giving content to show why somebody should be invested in this. And I think in terms of the idea was to try and steal some PlayStation gamers, because right now that PlayStation just owns it, I believe. Statistically, they have it. Right. And for me, I mean, I have both. I might get one eventually, but I rarely use my Xbox, because I mean, the people that I know have a PlayStation and game, and it didn't do enough to dissuade me from just having a PlayStation Pro and then waiting until the next generation of consoles came out. Yeah. So I guess that's the thing. Would you define this as a next generation of console, or would you describe this as like a 0.5?
It's a 0.5, definitely. But it's a big step 0.5. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think I'll buy one right away, mainly because if I don't have a 4K TV, like I will wait until I upgrade my TV to 4K, because you're losing so much of what it has to offer if you're just playing 4K graphics on a regular 1080p TV. It'll still look better, but
so I think that Just buy a 4K TV then. Just buy a really nice 4K TV.
No, I'll do that. Well, that was one of the things I did. I did some looking around because I was interested. I'm like, well, okay, so the console's $500. What's your total all-in investment if you're, most people don't have a 4K TV right now. If they were looking at, I want to get a 4K TV, I want to get the Xbox One X so I can be, gaming full hardcore. And you can find a good 55-inch 4K TV like a Samsung for around $700. So it's not terrible. At least TV prices, it's pretty reasonable. So you're looking at $1,200 though.
Yeah.
And
so also with that,
cheap.
I know there's a lot. I mean, that's what's buying a TV is so intimidating because there's so many different there's like so much sub information in a 4K TV. Like some 4K TVs aren't going to look that much better, especially particularly with gaming. And there's some of the expensive ones that have the specific details that it takes a long time to look up too. So I mean, I still think it wasn't a big enough drop to get the conversion that they're looking for. Yeah. I mean, I hope it works out, and I hope it's exactly what you said. I hope it forces PlayStation to up their game, because when they did the PlayStation Pro announcement, I couldn't give
That was way less
two shits about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not true 4K.
It's not true 4K, yeah.
It's just like enhanced, which I don't even know what that means. When I see like the graphical comparisons side to side, I see nothing.
I'm too much of a pleb to know what that. Yeah, it all looks mostly the same to me, so I'm just like whatever. But I think you're ultimately, if you put a 4K 50-inch TV next to a 1080p 50-inch TV, you're gonna see like a true 4K. You're gonna see the difference there, especially running at 60 frames. But just real quick before we move on, I do think that because I only have a PlayStation 4, I've had one since they launched, and I love it. But this does potentially convince me, and I won't get, like I said, won't get one right away. If they do a price drop on it after 6 months and bring it down to $400 or something like that, I would totally skip. I'm not going to get a PS Plus or PS4 Plus or whatever. I would absolutely consider buying an Xbox One for one, just to have that console level or PC level gaming on a console. And I don't have an Xbox anyways. There's Xbox exclusives that I would like to play that I can't, not to mention all that backwards compatibility with all my old Xbox games. I can go back and play Knights of the Old Republic again, which would be awesome. I mean, you can get it on PC or whatever. But anyways, it is a thing where people that only have a PS4 and are looking, maybe I will check out and pick up an Xbox One X, a year down the road. I don't know. Maybe not, but
that's good to know for me personally, because I play most of my games based on what my friends play. I do mostly. It takes a really good story mode to get me into a game now, and I play most of my games based on what you and a few other people play. So if people make the jump to Xbox, that could also convert me, but also the $500 price tag is pretty substantial.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it's not going to be a thing I'm going to go out and buy day one. I might sit around. If they drop the price, I'll consider it, but it's
fair enough. We've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but just switching into a big thing in the past, console wars. The console war was always a thing. Which one wins out the day? Do we feel like that's still a thing?
I feel like it's a thing, and Brian kind of touched on it, but like it is on its way out the door. We didn't have another announcement. We didn't have an announcement from all three big headliners for that. We didn't have a new update for the Switch. We didn't have a new update for the PlayStation. It was just Microsoft this year. Whereas like the year before, it was I think it was just Nintendo and Sony. So I mean, like it's just kind of been flip flopping to the point where it's like it's a lot longer of time in between each announcement. So I feel like, especially if the Xbox One X does go the way they want it to, it's definitely going to be a thing of the past within the next probably 5-10 years.
Fair enough. I think the PlayStation seems to be the only one. I mean, Nintendo is its own animal, and it will always be its own beast. But PlayStation seems to be the only one that's actively against. I know they had a few stories this E3 about how they don't want to do like cross-platform. They want to keep their own thing, and there was a big thing about protecting their base and making sure that PlayStation fans are happy. So they seem to be the only ones that are putting up the guards now that they're top dog, not wanting to embrace cross-platforming and things of that nature.
Well, I was going to say with the cross-platform thing, they can say it's about protecting their base or their consumer, whatever. All it means is why they have zero reason to go cross-platform. They are the top dog, like you said.
Yeah.
They have 0% reason to make that happen. All the other, Xbox, Microsoft is like, sure, let's do it. We want some of your player base. There's a reason. Sony's like, I don't care. Everybody has our console. We don't need your guys to play with. Like, there's zero reason for that. In terms of the console war, I think, like you were touching on, Nintendo is a completely different beast, and they have been for a long time. They're not really in it. They're a little different. I still think Sony and Microsoft do to an extent, and I think what we were saying with the One X, if it sells well, it's gonna be a bit of a shot at Sony, and they're gonna have to come back with a super console. And I don't know if it's necessarily a super console, but a console that can compete in terms of power with the One X. They're just gonna have to. Or else they're going to get left behind, I think. But the thing that's interesting about Nintendo is that they have their own audience and they don't really compete. But if they keep coming out like they did this year and they keep doing their own thing, they're going to start slowly pulling more and more people. And to me, it's not an either or. With Sony and Microsoft, it's you get a PlayStation 4 or you get for most people, you get a PlayStation 4 or you get an Xbox. I'm a person with PS4. I'm going to go, and I said I was considering the Xbox One X. I'm 100%. As soon as either the next generation or the revised generation of the Switch launches, or just they drop the price again, I'm buying a Switch because there are so many games I want to play.
Yep.
Same.
And you know what I mean. So that's they can pull from both bases, and they don't have to compete. They do their own thing, and they'll have people buying from Sony users and Microsoft users both. They're gonna be like, I want to Switch because I want to play Zelda, I want to play Mario, I want to play Metroid. So
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's definitely a different ball game. All right, something else to touch on. Which studio do we think won this year in terms of multiple content? I mean, like we're looking at things like Ubisoft, things of that nature. Who do we think had the biggest bang for their buck in terms of studios?
Because there was a lot of like good titles and a lot of not so good titles.
The answer is Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo by far, like,
and Ubisoft. Those are the two for me.
My top 3 this year were going to be Nintendo because they just came back with 2 Metroid games. They came up with a new Kirby game, like all these great games that they released. That I'm like, yes, I want all of these. Yeah. Ubisoft came out with some good stuff with the what was it?
Who's doing Anthem?
I can tell you, I have. Anthem is EA. Well, it's not EA. It's
BioWare.
But it's
But
really
EA owns
EA is
everything.
the mother company or whatever. Yeah. So, but Ubisoft, I can tell you a couple of things they had. Well, their big one, the thing that blew me. Well, Far Cry 5, that's a smaller one.
Mm-hmm.
Assassin's Creed Origins, which looks interesting. Skull and Bones, which is basically just the ship battle element from Assassin's Creed Black Flag in multiplayer mode, which looks interesting. And then the big one for me, and the reason I, along with those other ones, was Beyond Good and Evil 2, which I don't know if you guys played the first Beyond Good and Evil.
Did not.
It's fantastic, and I thought that cinematic was great, and I'm super excited to play a sequel to Beyond Good and Evil. So.
Yeah, it's been in the runnings for a long time. I mean, I liked a lot of the things that EA came out with currently. I mean, Battlefront 2 to me was, hey, we fucked up the first time. Remember Battlefront 2, the old game that everybody really wanted to play? We're going to make this to look as much like that as possible.
Yep.
It's just that we've been betrayed so many times by them before that it's hard to jump on any bandwagon right now. It's so hard to do that. I think they came a big thing with that was their announcement that, like, we are giving away content. Yeah. There will be microtransactions, but we won't have a pass or a season pass or anything like that, because that, I think, is the best version of gaming possible, and it's something that a lot of the PC games that we play are so popular. Is everything's free. If you want to spend money, you can, but that will be completely cosmetic. There's nothing that other people in the game will be able to do that you won't because they have the cash. Yeah. To me, that's a good sign from them, particularly for this, and I think they knew they needed to do it when their numbers started dropping off from Battlefront gameplay.
Well, all they had to do was look to the success of Overwatch, and it was the other big first-person shooter that came out last year that had all free content. I can't think of one thing. But yeah, like Overwatch, all of the expansions, all that stuff is free. I mean, cosmetics are the only thing you could potentially pay money for. And that's just the way you have to go with it, because the consumer does not want anything to do with paying for DLC anymore. Yeah. Well, and not, at least not in multiplayer games. In single player, that's a different story. But
yeah. And then my other company that I was really excited for and that definitely did not disappoint was Sony. With the Shadow of the Colossus remake, with the new God of War game, with Spider-Man, like this, it looks. Lots of good games coming my way.
Another strong showing for for exclusive content. Yeah. Which is again why they own it, and it kind of bleeds into what we're going to kind of get at, just because we don't want this to run too long. But just basically, what are the things that you are most excited about in seeing this? I know one that we touched on that I wanted to comment as to why I think Nintendo specifically, for me, had the best showing. Because I always said that there was one thing that would guarantee me buying a console, a Nintendo console again. And that was as soon as they made the decision to pair with Game Freak, who has made all of their Pokemon games, all of their like original like RPG-based Pokemon games. As soon as they decided to make something for the console, they didn't really say anything about it other than they are pairing with Game Freak to make an RPG on the Switch. Yeah. And that I think is the biggest thing. I think you will get a bigger conversion from that. I couldn't imagine other than something like a Super Smash Bros. Or something along those lines. It's going to get more people to jump on board that hadn't. In terms of selling consoles, that'll be one of the biggest console sellers, specifically for Nintendo, that we'll see in the last 5 years to the next 5 years. Because I will buy that immediately. We're hoping it's not. I saw a lot of people speculating that's just going to be kind of like they're going to make the current Pokemon Sun and Moon on the console, which would be just a huge disappointment. Yeah. But hopefully that's not what we're looking at. And based on the fact that they didn't say what it is specifically, that's a good sign that we're not going to see that. So that for me was probably my number one, just in terms of something I didn't expect and would get me very excited that I've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
Garrett, what really impressed you?
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4. The Metroid Prime games were fantastic, and it's been 10 years since the last Metroid game.
No way.
Yes, it has. 2007 was when Metroid Prime 3 came out.
And that's not including any of their like side like weirdo games that because they've made a couple like strange like turn-based. They made like a turn-based Metroid game I think 2 years ago that everybody was really disappointed in.
I think that's accurate. It's the first since then of like the actual main storyline, actual Metroid game.
So that's got me excited. Shadow of the Colossus is one of my all-time favorite games next to BioShock, and I was seeing screenshots of it, and all I saw was like, it's the lead up to one of the earlier Colossuses, and it's just like the trail, and it's like winding up around this Coliseum in the sky, and I saw just the trail, and I was like, oh, this is Shadow of the Colossus, I'm so excited, I want this right now.
Yeah, I never played it, so I'm excited for a remake.
Oh,
it's
can get me
to
fantastic! It's one of the better games you'll play. It's really good.
And then Spider-Man. It just looks great from the gameplay demo. It seems to look like it's going to play kind of into the Arkham style of combat and
a little
stealth
bit,
and
yeah.
Stuff. I know you and I were kind of talking about it before we started recording, but like combat might be a little weird. But we'll see.
But I mean, that's one thing. The Arkham combat honestly is incredibly repetitive, but it's so satisfying that it's okay. And there's also a lot more story driving the content that you're okay with that. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this kind of takes from that, and that'd be a good thing.
Yeah. And the only other game that I was relatively interested in was Assassin's Creed Origins, just because there's like only 2 time periods that I was like, man, I wish they would do Assassin's Creed games in.
Egypt
that was
and
ancient
Japan.
Egypt and Japan, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're doing it, so I'm excited.
Go ahead.
I have a bit of a list, a little short list. We've talked about most of it, so we'll just run through it real quick. My number 5 on my list was Assassin's Creed Origins. 1, because of the time period.
Yep.
Absolutely on board. 2, and this is a bit of I'm excited and interested to see what they do with it, but I'm also a little reserved on it, is the complete overhaul to the actual type of game it is. From I don't know how much of the gameplay you watched, but they are going much more hardcore into an RPG. They're changing the combat completely. So the original Assassin's Creed combat style was similar to like an Arkham, where it's more of just a button masher, parry people when they attack, and then execute them sort of thing. That is the thing of the past. There, you have gear items. You have items now. You upgrade all your gear. Gear drops. You pick it up and equip it, kind of like a Witcher or something like that. A typical RPG. And then you do damage to people based on your the items, the weapons you have. They changed the combat system so that it's more of a traditional, like you're dodging and blocking and attacking based on the type of weapon you're using. Mm-hmm. They added a whole new sets of bows in. There's like 4 different types of bows. There's like and they described them like this. There's like shotgun bows where you use like multiple arrows. There's sniper bows. So they really overhauled the whole sniper bows.
It's their gun replacement. They've made so many games where guns started to take too big of a precedent.
Yeah.
I'm just a little worried. I think it looks interesting, and I love the idea of because they have all kinds of ranging talent tree now that you can upgrade different abilities and all kinds of stuff like that. So you can spec more into combat or you can spec more into stealth, and that looks interesting. I'm just worried it's not going to feel. I don't want to, because they're saying this, you don't always, when you jump and assassinate somebody, it doesn't always kill them. And I'm like, well, that's not a fucking Assassin's Creed game. Like, if I'm not jumping off a roof and killing somebody in one blow with my hidden blade, what's the point? Like, I don't understand.
It's just a sign that you might not be the best assassin.
I guess. But anyway, so that's my first one. Assassin's Creed Origins looks interesting. 4 was Nintendo Switch. I'm getting one because Mario Odyssey looks incredible.
Oh yeah.
And then and like you said, Pokemon. I'm not the world's biggest Pokemon fan. I really enjoyed the original games, but I'll definitely be picking up. Number 3, we haven't talked about at all. Detroit Become Human. I don't know if you guys saw any of that.
I didn't.
They
see
showed a
anything.
lot more than they did last year. It looks pretty different.
I think it looks interesting. It's the same guy. It's the same developer who did Hard Rain, I believe. Is that correct?
Heavy Rain.
Heavy Rain. Sorry, Heavy Rain.
Hard Rain.
Hard
That's called
Rain,
Hail.
whatever.
No, I think Hard Rain's a.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Heavy Rain. Sorry. And so yeah, it's a very cinematic. But the idea of how much you're, and now again, this has been built in every video game since 2007 that your choices influence the outcome in the game. But it really looks like they mean it this time based on everything we've seen from the game. So hoping that that's actually the case, because I think it looks really interesting. It's a very interesting setting, and the storyline looks very poignant and timely, shall we say. Yeah.
I mean, it also seems like in that game that it's your choices are more important than that's the gameplay is your choices. Like what you do is secondary to the choices you make, and how you
it looks like
evolve
a very pretty Telltale game, basically. Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then number 2 was Anthem, mainly because for no other reason than it's probably the best Iron Man simulator we'll ever get based on
I mean, it looked really pretty though. Like
it looked really pretty. I'm just a little worried. I got burned a little bit by The Division, and it looks so. I mean, I liked The Division overall, but it wasn't what I was hoping it would be.
Yeah.
It was like my top anticipated game of last year, and it just didn't quite live up to it. It was still okay, and then my number 1 was Spider-Man. That 9-minute or whatever gameplay trailer blew me away, and the developer of my single favorite game franchise of all time, Ratchet and Clank. Insomniac Games is so you can guarantee that the storyline, the humor is going to be completely on point, because if you've ever played a Ratchet and Clank game, their writing is
impeccable.
Rock solid.
Yeah.
It's rock solid, and so they're going to get it, and it's going to be great. And the combat looks. I actually honestly think that the Arkham style combat fits Spider-Man probably even better than it fits Batman in a sense, because of
you're wrong, but
You're reaching.
But no, I think you're spot on. I believe we've had talks in the cast before where like it fits for him. I mean, it's basically a hand-to-hand combatant or with some multiple activities, and it makes more sense that Spider-Man is able to jump in ways that Batman does in that game.
That's my thinking. Yeah, that's why it's my point. And the whole spider sense thing, and then anticipating and dodging people from, that just makes more sense to me with Spider-Man.
That's a fair point.
But whatever. So, and then I got a couple quick honorable mentions. The Last Night, I don't know if you guys saw anything. It's a real small, quick thing in the Sony presentation. I can't remember which one it was in. And it's or it might have been the Microsoft presentation. It was a Microsoft presentation. It's a 2D side scroller that looks like it's the art style is gorgeous. It looks like very story driven, futuristic, dystopian, kind of like Blade Runner style universe. And the art style just looks incredible. There's been some controversy over the guy that created it and some tweets he sent out like 8 years ago. But anyways, the game looks gorgeous, and I'm kind of excited for it. And then the other honorable mention I had was where'd it go? Beyond Good and Evil 2, and then Shadow of Colossus. Those are my big ones that really stood out to me, because I can't wait for any of that stuff.
Fair enough.
Sam, any ones?
I mean, you hinted on. I mean, this was really the year for me of like, I was giving people last chances, and they all met the last chance. This was very frustrating. Assassin's Creed, completely on board for Egypt, like you guys said. Honestly, for me, Call of Duty, I wasn't going to buy another game unless they went back to World War II, and they fucking did, which is hooray. That'll be $60 that I probably will end up throwing away. Big one for me, and it's not even going to come out until the end of next year, but God of War. That's such a good franchise, and that's the combat is so well done, and the idea of him jumping over to the Norse mythology to me is extremely exciting. There's a couple things that I am concerned with, like is he just going to have this kid on his back the entire time?
Looks like it.
And the only other thing that I was a little perturbed with is like, I get that he's in a new place, but Kratos is the chains with the blades on him. Like if he doesn't get those at some point,
he will.
Like if he doesn't accept his inner rage or whatever, that son who's almost assuredly going to almost die at some point.
I hope he dies like 3/4 of the way through.
He won't die.
Chains.
I don't think they'll kill him.
They won't do that again.
Or they might kill him, and he will go to Valhalla and save him and be like, I just want at some point the game to be like, all right, I'm just gonna kill all the gods now. Just all of the pantheons.
All,
I've got a list. and this is what we're
And
going
everyone's
through.
on it.
But
Going
the idea,
door to
actually, I just
door.
thought about that now. The idea of him going to Valhalla to save his son and be like, nope, we're not doing this time.
I like that.
And it looks gorgeous,
Yeah.
but it's not coming out for another year and a half, which is very depressing. We touched on Battlefront, but you guys covered for the most part everything that I was looking at. One game that I'm interested in because I really want it to be good, but I think it'll be kind of a bust is Days Gone By.
Yes, I was just gonna mention that.
I think
I'm actually more excited for it now than when I saw the original trailer or gameplay from last E3. I think it was. Did they have a?
They did. Where you're running through like a lumber mill, and these things just don't stop
so
coming.
Boring to me. I was like, it's just all these zombies, and he turns and shoots unlimited bullets, and it's just I was like, I'm not interested. This trailer actually, and I actually didn't realize the first time. This time I was like, the trailer started, and I was like, is that Sam Witwer? That is Sam Witwer. That's weird.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's
It's the long hair that throws me off.
Yeah. But when you see his face up close, it's very obviously him, and I Googled it, and it is. But this one looked way more interesting this time, knowing that, I mean, I guess I could assume you were going to fight, other real people, and that was going to be a big part of it. But a lot of the things that we saw in this trailer with him using the zombies, blowing up that wall, and that swarm of zombies comes in and overruns everybody. If there's lots of moments like that, I'm a little more interested. I'm still not super into it, but yeah.
I'm almost positive that it will get old very quickly.
Yeah.
It'll be a game you play you're like 40% into it, and you're like, okay, there's nothing new that's being introduced, and it's just kind of a drag. The only other one that I suppose that I will touch on, because we kind of hit the big players, what is it called?
I have about a million other things.
I mean, we can keep rifling through. Call of Cthulhu. Just a Lovecraft RPG. Lovecraft lore is so interesting, and to have a really good game based on all of that stuff, I think that could be very interesting. I'm just ready for something new and different and kind of fascinating, and that's what really grabbed me. Anthem, I'm concerned that it looks a lot like Destiny.
Yeah.
But I don't want it. I played Destiny, and it just couldn't grab me. I just couldn't get grabbed by it. Yeah. And I don't know if it's something to do with RPGs or sorry, it's more like the MMO RPG hybrid on consoles. I don't know why
shooter?
I don't know why I can't
basically,
get into it.
For me, it was that Destiny didn't have a lot of like direct storyline. There's like a wealth of lore to Destiny, but it's all like
read it all.
Yeah, it's all like hidden Easter eggs. You got to like dig through the deep web to get it, and like the dark web. Sorry, I mean, but
there's a deep dark web.
Okay,
yeah.
But like seriously, like you got to like scrounge through the Bungie grimoires or whatever it's called, and like just to find lore on this. And it's like I just tell a good story. Don't make me have to like hunt down the story.
And I think they're trying to sell that they're going to do that in Destiny 2. I mean, they heard that criticism big time in the first one. I actually played quite a bit of the first Destiny. I picked it up, and I probably logged over 100 hours in it ultimately. Because it's one of those games that I enjoyed. It's one of those good, like, turn your brain off, listen to music, or listen to it, like, and just slam through dungeons and shoot monsters. Like, if you don't want to, like, be super paying attention to a story, you want to listen to a podcast, or it's one of those. I was like, so I enjoyed it for that. And it was pretty enjoyable and pretty fun. Another one we didn't mention that one of our favorite games I remember playing a lot back in the day, Sam, was Crackdown 2. Crackdown 3 with Terry Crews, son.
What?
You can jump real high in these games. They've been talking about that for a while. Talk about a check your brain at the door game.
Yes. But there's I haven't looked into this fully, but I saw them talking or discussing a thing with Crackdown 3, and that every single building in the world is going to be completely destructible, and that they're going to use like off-site processing, like cloud processing, to basically make that possible, which is kind of like a newer thing they're going to do to like maintain this the entire world, where you're going to be able to literally blow up buildings and have entire skyscrapers come crashing down and then just be forever gone.
That's the question: is do they stay down?
That's what it sounds like. I haven't read or looked into it a bunch, and I don't think they talked about it a bunch. But it seemed interesting. It seemed like, especially for a game like that where you're just blowing everything up all the time. Well, if it stayed down, that could be rough because you could just blow the whole world up eventually, and you're just like in a giant flat wasteland.
Yeah,
and then you're playing Fallout.
Yeah, you're cracking down.
And then you're playing Fallout. It's perfect.
It's a great evolution. Far Cry 5 in America. What do we think about that? Far Cry Primal for me was kind of fun, but I lagged out like halfway through it.
I've never either. This is the first one I'm interested in.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I don't say that. I would have played the other ones. I just never did for whatever reason. They looked fun enough. I just had other games I was playing at the time. But this one, that trailer during the Ubisoft presentation, really the dog mechanic, setting it in America, being in Montana, I don't know. I just thought it was a much more interesting idea than I normally see. It's like you're going and fighting some generic warlords in some third world country. It's like, okay,
that's the thing is that none of their major villains have been generic.
Well, no, sorry, I don't mean the actual villains. I am aware that in Far Cry 3 that the main villain is considered like one of the better video game villains. Period. Or I think it was 3.
It was 3.
Yeah.
It was
so I'm not saying they're generic. I just meant it's just like, it's some warlords in some country or something. And then that was just my interpretation. I'm not saying it's accurate. But this one is a very different take on that. And so I'm actually pretty interested. I think it looks different.
Yeah, the only thing that I wonder how they will do here is I like the idea of it being in Montana, but they're gonna have to do a few things to get out to have me buy into the reality of, okay, nobody's calling anybody or anything like that. I can get that. They can figure that out. EMP, whatever. You can use whatever thing you want to do for that. But my only other concern is that in the other games, you are fighting armies, and I don't know where they're going to get, like, oh, this is just a small religious cult that happens to have 10,000 followers that you have to kill all the time.
I had that same thought.
So, like, I do think that this is very interesting, and maybe if they do some kind of thing where there's a few less people, that might be interesting and kind of innovative, but I think that's also risky. Because it could be a bit of a flop, but I like the idea of it being in America a lot. I think that's interesting. Did they ever say what time frame it is?
It looks modern day based on the weapons that they...
Yeah.
Because the woman with the sniper rifle was used... That was a pretty modern rifle, like assault rifle sniper. At least it looked like it. I would guess no later or no earlier than like the 90s maybe.
That's what I was wondering if they would do it in like the 70s or something like that, where communications were a little rougher.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know for sure. I haven't heard anything, but
it was also when religious cults were kind of...
Hey man, religious cults never go out of style.
I know, but like especially in American culture.
Another game we haven't talked about that almost made my list was Shadow of War.
I'm excited.
Shadow of Mordor sequel.
I guess I just didn't think too much about it because they had already released so much about it.
I guess I hadn't been paying attention. So.
Yeah, they released lots of videos and stuff for it. I think it looks cool. I mean, again, it's a game that if it weren't in the Lord of the Rings universe, I probably wouldn't play it. But the first one was doable. It was a good game. It wasn't a game changer for me, but I had fun with it. And we'll just have to kind of see what this one is. The last one kind of made sense with what he was doing, but in this one, you're like taking over Mordor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't just time frame wise, I'm not sure how that plays in really well.
It doesn't.
He fails, I guess. It's like the only option.
If this is going to be their last installment, or if they make another one, like he has to fail. There's no.
Has to fail.
But what's his even goal right now?
Now he's just like, I'm taking down Mordor now. It's exactly what you said. I'm taking over Mordor.
The thing that really excites me about it, and I actually never played the first one. I went out and bought a couple games today after I was watching all this stuff because like I got to play this, and I went out and picked it up because it's only like $15.
Right into their trap.
It's worth it, yeah.
But the thing that looks really interesting in this one to me is the whole taking control of orcs and assaulting fortresses with your own army of orcs.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if
Sieging sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds incredible, but.
And they did not have that in the previous game. Like you could influence individuals to like try and assassinate other individuals, but to have like armies and kind of use like military tactics as something that's new. Although in the video that we watched for it, it looked way too easy.
Yeah.
Because you essentially were just like, go get it. And then you just teleported all over the place and killed everybody.
It also looked like it was probably like a later point in the game where it's like, I've amassed
I'm
this
quite
army.
beefy at this point.
Yeah.
I hope the first one is just like you and 3 orcs, and you're just like, let's go.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Also, there's something about a cave troll speaking English that's just like, all right, so you want me to knock down that bridge? Got it. Like,
They do.
Cave trolls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When?
In the Hobbit, in both
In
the
the
book
Hobbit,
and
the
the
trolls
movies,
speak English.
The cave trolls speak English. It's just like the Moria cave trolls and like the deep cave trolls, like they don't. They're just like they are bred for
The
brute
trolls
force.
that Bilbo runs into that almost cook and eat him
Yeah.
Oh, good point.
absolutely speak English or common or whatever it's called. And
It's English.
well, yeah, but I mean, it's got a name.
Okay, then maybe these are not the deep cave trolls. Maybe these are just highly evolved rampaging killing machines with armor like burnt into their skin. Okay, fair enough. Was there anything else that we didn't cover? I mean, this is kind of just what E3 always evolves into, is just talking about every single game that possibly
Not
came
until
out.
we get to our disappointments. Well, the only one, because it wasn't a disappointment, was Kingdom Hearts 3. I loved the first 2 Kingdom Hearts games. The first Kingdom Hearts game is one of my favorite games of all time, and that was the other game I went up and picked up today. I picked up the remastered PS4, the first 2 games, because I never actually played the
Man,
second
you went
one.
real deep.
Oh, yeah. I just like, well, all right, I know what I'm doing.
Well,
I have a 4-day weekend, and my girlfriend's out of town, so I'm going to slam through some games this weekend.
Coolest guy.
We'll springboard that off into disappointments, because one of my disappointments was Kingdom Hearts 3. Not for the fact that like of what was shown, but the fact that it's still just another teaser, and it's still just of like, hey, we still don't have a release date for this game that we've been working on for almost 10 years now.
10 years.
Well, they'll announce it at D23.
I know, but like, don't even show me another teaser. It's just like, hey, here's another world you can go to. It's kind of at the point now where it's like the Marvel TV spots and trailers where it's like, okay, you've pretty much shown me the whole game now. Like, what do I want to buy this game for? You just showed me to it. Yeah. That being said, I am excited for it, but I'm done with the stringing along. It's like, you better release this game this year, or I'm not going.
You tired of the teasing?
Yeah, I am. And then I had another disappointment.
I could guess one of them, maybe.
Yes.
Bethesda.
Yep, that's what it was. I couldn't remember. I was like, oh crap, what was it?
Because that's one of mine. Bethesda showing was very disappointing.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of stuff that nobody really wanted, and
You're not excited about? Was it State of Decay 2? Is that what they have?
Oh my god, no. Don't even get me started on State of Decay 2. That looked like the worst thing ever. But that was and that might be Bethesda, but that was in the Microsoft presentation at least.
It was mainly just like all this Elder Scrolls and Fallout stuff, VR stuff that like nobody really wanted.
It was Doom and Fallout 4 on VR, Bethesda Creation Club, which is just them trying to sell you mods again, basically. Mm-hmm. Although it does bring mods for console players only, fair enough, because they don't have a way to do mods short of Bethesda bringing it to you. But
yeah, I mean, if you have the special remastered edition, you can get mods for the consoles now.
Really,
yeah. So
and then Skyrim on the Switch, which that was okay. We already knew that. And then the only one that I was moderately interested in, because I used to play the original constantly on my dad's Apple computer, was Wolfenstein 2, because the original
new Colossus
is a lot of fun. Yeah. And that one actually looks pretty fun, running around killing Nazis. I'm always on board. So
I felt the one thing that when I was watching those that I thought was interesting is when watching the trailer and watching the announcers talk about, it's like a lot of one interesting thing that we did with this is dual wielding. You can use 2 different weapons at the same time. I was like, they did that in GoldenEye.
Revolutionary.
Like what are you talking about? I like to use a strong weapon in my right hand and a silent weapon in my left hand. I was like, that's great. So you don't have to change your inventory. So press triangle to switch out. It didn't. Yeah. Nothing that they said felt like, oh man, that's nuts. I mean, but you're killing Nazis, which is always a good time. Anything else you were disappointed in?
Yes. I have a couple of. Well, mainly one other thing was that we didn't see anything else from Last of Us 2. There was nothing saw nothing of Last of Us 2, at least in the Sony presentation that I watched.
Correct. No, they did not show anything yet.
It's a little disappointing. I mean, not majorly disappointing because I know it's going to be good. So I'm just
they can take as long as they want.
Yeah.
Just also because there's a lot riding on that one too. Only other thing that I forgot to mention, because I always got to check in and see what the horror is. Evil Within was a really good game that I thoroughly enjoyed. It wasn't perfect. But it came out a few years ago, and I'm so happy that they announced a second one because the world that they built was really good despite some issues towards the end of the game. So I'm really happy that they're making another one. I don't know what the hell's going on in this trailer. There's lots of white goo, and there was zero white goo in the original game. So we might be taking a pretty sharp turn here. But other than that, I wasn't really disappointed in anything. Mostly disappointed in myself for buying into this every year and buying these games every year. It was just maybe it started a little self-loathing. I mean, fortunately for me, I didn't go to GameStop and spend $100 on a bunch of used games. $60. Somebody had store credit.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think it was pretty successful. I think I went into this one and I was a little more realistic as to what I was going to see and like what my expectations were.
Yeah. My other thing, and it wasn't so much a disappointment, it was one of the things that I almost put on my excited or best showing, not best showing, but it's a thing I'm excited about, but I'm also worried about because of what they showed, which is Sea of Thieves, which we haven't talked about at all.
That's
Xbox and PC
That's not
exclusive.
the new one, right? Because there's two pirate games that are coming out.
Well,
right?
Skull and Bones is the battle, the ship battle only, like it's just naval warfare,
just naval combat that looks
game.
more realistic, less cartoony.
Yes. Sea of Thieves is the cartoony, like you're an actual character and you run around multiplayer and you have a ship together and you go and you loot islands and you find buried treasure.
Right.
And I thought since they announced it and I saw the first trailer, I thought it looked really fun. But the more, and they haven't showed a ton still, but I'm getting a slight and worrisome No Man's Sky vibe from it, where the idea sounds great, but everything they show, I'm like, well, where's this video or the gameplay trailer they showed this time was you're on a ship and then they go and they swim and they pick up some buried treasure and they put it on the boat, and then they go to an island and they run around and they shoot a couple skeletons, and then they find some buried treasure and they pick it up and they put it on the boat. And then they get attacked by another boat, and they shoot cannons, and then the video ends. And I'm like, I still haven't seen what the meat of this game is. Like, what are you going to do short of run around and shoot cartoony skeletons with a single shot cowboy or
a flintlock pistol?
Yeah, I'm a little worried that it's going to end up being like not as disappointing as No Man's Sky, because at least this one actually will have multiplayer, but I'm a little worried that it's not going to live up to what I was hoping it would be, especially when they started showing some of the naval combat and it looked really simplistic and kind of just like you click X on the cannon and then it shoots. Like I was hoping there would be like, you have to run over and pick up a cannonball from in the stocks and bring it over to the cannon, and then one of your other guys has to, like I thought it would be more interactively multiplayer. It just, I don't know. I'm getting a vibe of like this is going to be disappointing, isn't it? And I was hoping it would be good. So I don't know. We'll see.
The vibe that I'm getting from it is they took a free to play game from a phone and tried to turn it into a console game.
Yeah, I mean it's a third person. Well, it's a first person.
I get that, but the idea of like you got to go and take this to that, and then you have to raid this island and bring the gold back to your ship. Like it's kind of what you're saying. Like there's not a lot of meat and substance.
Yeah.
Like maybe if there was like a cool upgrade system, and you could join like a pirate gang, and you could build up your fort or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
That would be something interesting.
I'm hoping that's there. It's just they haven't shown any of that yet, and I'm worried the reason they haven't shown anything like that is because it's not there. Yes.
Yeah.
This is the whole thing, and I've never talked about. But that was my whole thing with No Man's Sky. I didn't buy it and I didn't play it because I didn't buy the bill of goods they were selling. Because I was like, every time I saw a video from them at every convention and everything, I'm like, okay, but what do you do in the game? Like it just looked like there was nothing to it. And I was like, okay, you fly around, you mine things, and then you fly around and you mine things.
I think that's all that game was supposed to be, though. Yeah. I don't think they ever teased you with like, oh, and guess what?
No, they didn't. They didn't. That's my thing. That's why I didn't get it, because every video I was like, well, but when are they going to show us what we do short of mining and flying? Like, because to me that's not that interesting. Like I know I would get tired of this after a few hours.
Yeah, I think there comes a point where somebody can sell you on the experience to the extent where, like, if I really want a true experience, like, I'll go outside and do something. Yeah. You got to have something that's going to drag me in, not just like exploring.
Or it has to be really short and concise. Like, there's a couple really great games, and we're getting a little off topic, but it's real quick. There's a couple really great games. I don't know if you guys ever played. And I'm blanking on the name. There's one called Abzu out right now that's an underwater. It's a scuba diving game, but the original one, Journey. There's a game called Journey. I don't know if you guys ever played Journey.
Yeah, you're running around in the sand, and you got a big long scarf.
It's about as simple as a game comes. I mean, there's nothing to it, but it was one of my favorite games I played in the last 5 or so years, just because of how pure of an experience it was. It sounds really dumb,
it's so innocent.
It was one of the most pure gaming experiences I've had in a long time, where I was like, this is different and really cool. And I don't want to get into a whole. If you want to see more about it, I have a video about it on the Good, Bad, or Bad, Bad channel. But anyway.
All right. Anything else we missed? I think we kind of covered the full spectrum. Obviously, there's a ton of other stuff that came out, but I think we grabbed everything that's really holding interest to us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What about The Crew 2?
What's that?
The Crew 2. They got planes now.
You're right. I mean, unfortunately, I can't give them too much credit for that. You said they have planes now?
Yeah.
They had planes in Diddy Kong Racing for the N64. So, again, not the newest thing.
What about that new Tomb Raider game? Oh, wait, nope, that's Uncharted. Never mind. That was a note I had.
Oh, just Lady Uncharted?
I was like, is this Tomb Raider? Oh, no, it's Uncharted. Okay. But yeah, I don't have
just Uncharted Girls Night Out. It's all good. Yeah, so that's all we've got for you. Brian, you got anything that you want to plug?
Nope.
Nothing to plug. Not a podcast that you do, or a video cast, or...
me and my buddy Kyle, we host a YouTube show called Good, Bad, or Bad, Bad, where we watch terrible movies and laugh at them, make fun of them, but also not good-heartedly, because we all make our own movies and know how terribly, incredibly difficult it is.
I've been a part of some of those, and I know...
Yeah, it's not easy. Oh, we recently did I gotta send you the link. It's for our Patreon members. We review our own projects, our own videos, and we just did... We've Got a Problem.
Yes.
So.
How dare you?
Which Garret is also in.
Yes, I am.
So.
Beautiful.
Anyways, but yeah, that's it. Good, Bad, or Bad, Bad. Check us out on YouTube.
Absolutely. Yeah, we give you guys shout-outs pretty frequently. So if you don't know, you're obviously not listening to the end of our cast. So, anywho, Garret, anything going on with you?
I bought Overwatch today.
Congratulations. Welcome to the fraternity. What'd you buy it for?
I stopped playing Overwatch about a month ago.
PC. I'll get on it every now and then and kind of jam out, but usually if I'm not playing with somebody else online, I'm not playing it. Just doesn't grab me anymore. I mean, it's still fun, and every time I get on, it's okay, but there's no real drive for me to keep going with it unless somebody else is online. But alrighty, that does it for us. Thank you for tuning in. If Joe wants to put a fancy ending to this, he can, but I'm not going to. So have a lovely morning, evening, afternoon.
3 Wise Radio is a production of 3 Wise Media. For more information, check us out on Facebook.